Welcome back, everybody. This is the second half of the AFC wildcard round wrap-ups. The first wrap-up, I talked about the game between the Colts and the Chiefs. In this game, we get to talk about the win between the game between the impressing San Diego Chargers and the self-imploding Cincinnati Bengals. That's about as accurate as you can sum it up because, in my opinion, this is the worst loss for the Bengals in their franchise history. And here's the reasoning. The two Super Bowl losses, you played against Niner teams with Joe Montana in quarterback and Bill Walsh the coach. No shame there. And you played them tough. Look at the other painful losses. The wild card round of the playoffs against the Steelers, that was different. The Steelers were a very good team. They would go on to win the Super Bowl, and they more or less beat you. Look at the game against the Jets. Jets came in. Jets defense was a brick wall that year. All credit to the Jets. Pardon me. And then you look at the game in Houston. Houston was a better team than both times, and they deserved it. This was the first time in a long time you've had a home playoff game against the team that was totally beatable in the San Diego Chargers. And Dalton goes out and sucks. A.J. Green's invisible for half the game. Marvin Jones is the only guy who didn't stay on the bus. I mean, think about it. That whole team, other than Marvin Jones, played pretty damn poorly. He went out at 100-something yards and more than a half dozen catches, but that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is you got to give a ton of credit to the Chargers for the way they played the game. They ran the football and went after Andy Dalton. And that's kind of the game plan you need to use against the Bengals. You can get involved in a shootout with them, it doesn't matter. But eventually, Andy Dalton's going to sink his teeth in there and A.J. Green's going to make some plays. But the fact that the Chargers slowed the game down, I think really affected the Bengals' psyche. It made it tougher for them to play. I give a ton of credit to Mike McCoy and Ken Wisenhunt for the offensive game plan that they put together. Because it kept Andy Dalton on the sideline. They just kept converting third down after third down after third down. A couple plays by Phillip Rivers and a touchdown pass. I mean, they had a great game. They had a great game plan. But a lot of people are starting to more or less question the Bengals and Andy Dalton in this game. After this game, they're saying, well, can we go forward? Can we keep this guy? Is it worth it keeping him here? And I think that personally, the Bengals would be out of their minds to go in a different direction with him this offseason. I mean, think about it. Do you know how many quarterbacks in the NFL? Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Some Hall of Fame quarterbacks have fared poorer in the postseason in 3 years than Andy Dalton. Terry Bradshaw, Troy Aikman, Steve Young. They were poorer in the postseason their first years of starting than he was. Okay, maybe not so much Steve Young because he did make it to 2 title games. Okay, maybe that's a little bit of a stretch there. But for God's sake, the guy's still young. He's still learning. He's got years and years ahead of him. I think Dalton's got all the potential in the world to be a really good quarterback. I mean, he's a Pro Bowler, threw team record 33 touchdowns this year, had a good year. I think he will adjust eventually. And so the rest of the Bengals, they got some skill position players for the next few years. Might want to upgrade the offensive line just a little bit. Might want to get another receiver for Dalton, and you definitely want to get another guy in the secondary. But other than that, Geno Atkins coming off injury, you really can't ask for too much. This team played well, and all season, and just when they needed to play well, they didn't, I will be perfectly honest here, and my assessment is that Cincinnati, they need to maybe light a fire under Dalton, but I don't really think that Dalton is going to be, how should I put this? I don't think Dalton's expendable by any stretch. Unless the Bengals trade up and draft a quarterback in this year's draft, who I don't think would be any better than Dalton was the rookie. My opinion is that they just need to be patient with him because Joe Flacco just won a Super Bowl. People forget that. Joe Flacco just won a Super Bowl, and how many times in the playoffs did he struggle when he was in early in his career? When he got hot, Ravens went all the way. Let's look at other quarterbacks. Ben Roethlisberger, in his first 2 playoff games against the Jets and Pats, was dreadful. In his first Super Bowl, he was dreadful. Let's see, what else? The Cowboys, as inconsistent as they are, have stuck with Tony Romo through thick and thin. Again, there's just no reason to get rid of him. As for the Chargers, I'm really impressed with this football team. Do I think that the Steelers deserve to be in more than the Chargers? No, I don't actually. Well, I still think that Ben Roethlisberger is better than Phillip Rivers. I will win that argument with anybody that tries to cross me with it. But I think in general, this Charger team has been the hottest team in the league down the stretch. Won their last 4 games to get in, and then they won the playoff game against the Bengals. So, in reality, the playoffs started for them 4 or 5 weeks ago. So they've been playing football for almost a month and a half now. And I think it's really going to be interesting to see what happens next week when they go to Denver. Because let's not forget, they beat Denver in Denver not too long ago. Problem with it is, how are they going to go back? How are they going to feel going back in there? Denver's probably going to be out for revenge. I mean, it's going to be, colder weather. I mean, honestly, as bad as the weather was, there was a rain in Cincy. It was mild temperature-wise. They're going to go to Denver, and it's going to be cold as ice in that game. But the defense has played very well, been very stingy, getting turnovers and getting pressure on the quarterback. Get to me how many times I saw 3 or 4 Chargers in Dalton's face. Followed by, a running game that's been effective as well. I give San Diego right now, I'd have to probably list them as the 3rd best team in the AFC of the 4 left. Right now, as weird as it sounds, New England's the worst team left in the AFC playoffs. I would put Indy at 2nd because I think the tiebreaker they have with the Chargers is the pass rush on defense. And I think Denver's still the best, but still, that can all change. San Diego going to Denver's going to be a great game. If they can get if they can keep getting production out of their pass rushers and out of their secondary, getting some turnovers and keep moving the ball slowly, keep manning on the sideline, they got a real good chance to go up there and cause an upset. Would not put it past them. All right, that does it for the AFC. Coming back, Saints, Eagles. Who dat moves on.